Have you ever shared good news with someone and immediately regretted it? Maybe you got a promotion. Maybe you finished something you had been working on for months. Or maybe, for the first time in a long time, you simply felt proud of yourself. But before you could enjoy the moment, something changed. They mentioned that they had already done something similar. They pointed out everything that could still go wrong. They made a joke that took some of the excitement away. Or they quickly changed the subject and started talking about themselves. Nothing they said seemed serious enough to confront. But somehow, a moment that should have felt good left you feeling embarrassed for being happy. That is what makes this kind of competition so confusing. They rarely say that they need to be better than you. Most of the time, they act as though there is no competition at all. But after a while, you begin to notice a pattern. Whenever attention moves toward you, they become uncomfortable. Whenever you succeed, their mood changes. Whenever someone compliments you, they suddenly need to prove something. And whenever you are struggling, they somehow need to be struggling even more. With some people, everything becomes a competition. Even things that should never have been competing in the first place. You tell them you barely slept, and they slept less. You say you are exhausted, and they are more exhausted. You talk about something painful, and they immediately tell you about something worse that happened to them. At first, you may think they are only trying to relate to you. And sometimes people do share their own experiences because they want us to feel understood. But there is a difference between relating to your experience and replacing it. Someone who wants to connect will eventually bring the conversation back to you. They will ask what happened. They will listen to your answer. They will leave space for what you are feeling. Someone who wants to compete will take over the conversation. Your story becomes an opportunity for them to tell theirs. Your pain becomes a way for them to prove that they have suffered more. And somehow, you end up comforting them during a conversation that began because you needed support. The competition also appears during happy moments. You mention that you started exercising, and they immediately talk about how disciplined they are. You buy something you are proud of, and they either criticize it or show you something more expensive. You learn a new skill, and suddenly they need to prove that they already know how to do it. You receive attention from someone, and they become louder, more charming, or unusually involved. When you describe these situations, they can sound childish. That is one reason people ignore them for so long. You may think that an adult could not possibly be jealous of something so small. But the real issue is often not the achievement itself. It is what the achievement changes between you. For a moment, you are the one being noticed. You are the one feeling confident. You have something that does not depend on them. And some people experience your confidence as a threat. Not because you are attacking them. Not because you are showing off. But because confidence makes you less dependent on their approval. When other people appreciate you, their opinion becomes less powerful. When you begin trusting yourself, it becomes harder for them to define your value. And when your life starts moving forward, you may become less willing to remain in a relationship that constantly makes you feel small. They may never openly tell you to stop growing. Instead, they make growth feel uncomfortable. They joke when you talk about your plans. They remind you of previous failures. They act bored when you share something important. They become cold after someone praises you. Sometimes they offer a compliment that does not really feel like a compliment. They say it is surprisingly good for you. They say they did not expect you to finish it. They say you were lucky that everything worked out. Each comment appears small on its own, but the message slowly becomes clear. Do not become too proud. Do not take up too much space. And do not forget who is supposed to be ahead. Eventually, you may begin changing your behavior without realizing it. You stop sharing your good news immediately. You wait until your excitement has passed. You make your accomplishments sound smaller than they really are. You criticize yourself before they get the chance. You say it was not a big deal, even when it was. You say you were lucky, even when you worked incredibly hard. You learn to protect their ego by hiding parts of yourself. And this is where the damage becomes deeper than ordinary competition. You begin learning that your happiness creates problems. You start associating attention with punishment. You feel guilty when someone compliments you in front of them. When something good happens, part of you is already preparing for their reaction. The silence, the strange joke, the sudden change in mood, or the criticism that appears later and seems completely unrelated. Sometimes the competition becomes more obvious. They copy something you do and later act as though it was their idea. They enter spaces that matter to you and try to become the center of them. They compete for the attention of your friends. They compare income, appearance, relationships, intelligence, or popularity. They keep score, even though you never agreed to play. And the moment you appear to be doing better, the rules change. When you succeed professionally, they decide that career does not matter. When you have a healthy relationship, they say relationships are a distraction. When you become more confident, they say you are becoming arrogant. When other people like you, they say those people do not really know you. There is no point at which you finally win. Because the goal was never to measure your success fairly. The goal was to protect their position. That is why trying to prove yourself usually does not work. You may believe that if you achieve enough, they will finally respect you. You may think that if you explain your effort clearly enough, they will recognize it. You may hope that, if your success becomes undeniable, they will finally support you. But someone who needs to feel superior does not become fair when you succeed. They simply find a different way to dismiss it. They move the finish line. They criticize how you succeeded. They focus on what you still do not have. Or they accuse you of changing. Sometimes they even seem kinder when you are struggling. This can be one of the most confusing parts. When you feel insecure, dependent, or lost, they may appear more supportive. You begin to think that the relationship is finally getting better. But when you recover, become more independent, or start receiving attention again, the tension returns. This does not always mean that every kind moment was fake. People are more complicated than that. But it may mean they feel safer when they still believe they are above you. They can be generous when they feel more successful. They can comfort you when your pain makes them feel stronger. They can encourage you when they do not believe you will actually move ahead of them. The problem begins when your growth becomes real. This dynamic does not happen only in romantic relationships. It can happen with a friend who disappears whenever your life is going well. It can happen with a parent who treats your independence like rejection. It can happen with a sibling who turns every family gathering into a comparison. It can happen with a coworker who takes credit for your ideas. And it can happen with a partner who says they want you to succeed, but becomes distant whenever you do. Not every competitive person is narcissistic. And not every jealous reaction is an attempt to manipulate you. Everyone feels insecure sometimes. The difference is what someone does with that insecurity. A healthy person can feel jealous without punishing you. They can feel insecure and still congratulate you. They can want something you have without needing you to lose it. They can listen to your pain without proving that theirs is worse. They do not need your light to become smaller, so that theirs can be seen. The real question is not whether this person has ever competed with you. The question is whether you are allowed to exist beside them, without constantly managing their ego. Can you succeed without being mocked? Can you be hurt without being overshadowed? Can you receive attention without paying for it later? Can you have something that belongs only to you? Can you grow without the relationship becoming unstable? When the answer is repeatedly no, you may be dealing with more than simple competitiveness. You may be in a relationship where equality feels threatening to the other person. And you cannot create equality alone. You cannot reassure someone enough to make them secure. You cannot become small enough to satisfy someone who measures their worth by standing above you. There will always be another achievement to minimize, another quality to criticize, another moment they believe should have belonged to them. The way out does not begin with defeating them. It begins when you stop participating. You do not have to defend every accomplishment. You do not need to prove that you deserved what you earned. You do not need their approval before you are allowed to feel proud. You can become more careful about who hears your plans while they are still vulnerable. You can celebrate good news with people who do not turn your happiness into a comparison. You can stop explaining yourself to someone who has already decided that your confidence is arrogance. And you can begin noticing the parts of yourself you have been hiding, just to keep the relationship peaceful. Because peace that depends on your silence is not really peace. Support that disappears when you become stronger is not real support. And love should not require you to lose, so that someone else can feel like they are winning. Maybe you were never too sensitive. Maybe you simply noticed that every conversation had an invisible scoreboard. Maybe you became tired of competing in a game you never wanted to play. You are allowed to step away from that game. You are allowed to enjoy something without immediately making it smaller. You are allowed to be proud without apologizing. And the people who truly care about you will not experience your growth as a personal defeat. They will not need to stand above you. They will be able to stand beside you. If this video helped you recognize something you have struggled to put into words, subscribe for more conversations like this.